Hey family, it's Tasha, MAMABEAR Homestead. I'm here just to give you a really quick down and dirty video about getting ready for the season, for the gardening season, and different stuff that you should be doing to get ready. So the first thing is you should be researching. You should be figuring out what zone you live in, what vegetables do good in that zone, which fruit trees do good in that zone, what other trees, all the things, even weeds, right? What does well in the area that you live in, the zone that you live in. Researching, checking out nurseries, figuring it out, and researching what does well in your area, okay? And the thing is if you've been gardening for 2 seconds or you've been gardening for 2 centuries, right? This is still something that a lot of people don't do. A lot of people just garden. They just do it and they never research. I mean, I've met so many people. This is only like my 3rd year, I think. I've met so many people that have not known about zones and growing zones. So Google what zone you're in, where you live. There's a zone, agricultural, like growing zone. And that helps you when you're picking seeds and picking plants, and even especially let's say there's avocados. I want to grow avocados. I'm in Washington State, avocados. But you can research and see, is there a hardy type? Is there a kind of avocado that does do decent in Washington State? And what would be the requirements in your zone to be able to grow that, right? So that's what I mean. Like, don't just take it like, well, we can't grow avocados up here. No, you could. You just have to get the right kind that actually will grow up here. And what is the growing criteria for that? Temperatures, all the stuff that you have to keep in mind when you're growing it. Next thing I have is your layout, your planning. Like, where are you going to put stuff? How's it going to be laid out? This could be, okay, you're starting from the ground up, trying to buy or build, your beds, your raised garden beds. You're trying to, what area are you going to till? Maybe you're doing a full, layout tilled area, and you're just going to do rows of food, and it's all going to be together. So lay out what you're going to do for where you're at, right? And I think that depending on where you live does depend on what type of garden you have. For some people, that's a container garden, and so they're just literally figuring out vertically. They have a balcony. They're trying to figure out how they can have the most food possible growing in this small space and with containers and things. And then you have people who have plots of land, tons of land that they can just, clear out and have just beautiful plots of land. Then you have folks that have, okay, I'm going to have this. They have a pretty good, decent area, but that's their garden area. And they're going to do raised beds, and they're going to have some canister, plots. They're going to have different things, right? So what is the layout? Plan it out now. Plan out where you're going to put different vegetables. Figure out which companion planting, where you're going to put stuff that goes well together, and literally write it out and plan it out. The next thing I have is starting. How are you going to start? Because this is different for everybody. So you have people that are direct sow. You have people that are starting seeds inside, seedlings. You have people who buy transplants. You have all types of different ways that you can go about starting your season. And a lot of that has to do with that research part of when is your last frost date, right? When is the date that you can put stuff outside and it's safe, that if you direct sow it or you transplant it or you whatever, move your seedlings out, that they're going to make it, right? And so you've got to understand your weather. You've got to understand a lot of things, but you've got to figure out how you're going to start, because you sitting down and telling yourself how to do that will then help you figure out your smaller goals. Okay, I'm doing this, and this with seeds. I'm going to start them from seeds. I'm going to start them indoors. I'm going to start this month, this month, right? And you understand that. You understand what you're going to direct sow, your timelines for direct sowing, your timelines if you're starting seeds, your timelines if you're buying plants from a nursery or somewhere and you're buying vegetables that are already started and you're going to plant those, and what that means for your entire layout for the entire season, when you could start harvesting, all that good stuff. That goes into my next thing is, what is your harvesting and your preservation plan? You have to plan for that. You have to get the things. You have to have the pressure canner or the water bather. You have to have the jars ready. You kind of have to have your plan written out of when stuff is supposed to harvest, because if you've grown a lot of stuff, yes, you can see from sight when stuff needs to be harvested, but a lot of stuff, you need to kind of have the timelines. Okay, the carrots have been in the ground how long? Okay, when are they ideally supposed to be ready? So that you kind of know when you should be checking stuff, or what does it look like when it's almost ready, especially for the stuff that you can't see that's under the ground, those root vegetables, that type of thing. Even the stuff that's on the vine, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know if it's ready or whatever, right? So understanding your timelines and understanding harvest, and when you're supposed, or be around a time frame where you're supposed to be harvesting, or is going to harvest all the time 100%, all the way through the season you're harvesting. Like tomatoes, once they start, I'm harvesting nonstop until the end of the season. And even the end of the season, when I went to move them, I didn't have a greenhouse, I moved them. They finally stopped, but they were like in full still production when I moved them, right? So, I mean, if I had a greenhouse, they would have just kept going. It would have been cool to see how far they would have went because they were just out of control. They did so well. So super excited about the tomato harvest this year as well. And maximizing timelines. You know, I drug my feet for a while on certain things and planted some things that were like several months later that, you know, I needed to. So that's why I say plan it out. Figure out your harvesting and get stuff in the ground and out there growing and started when it's supposed to be started, so that you don't mess up that harvesting, the timelines. Okay. And then you can, because if you mess up, let's say springtime harvesting and planting and harvesting, it does mess up when you have your time period to clean up your beds, get stuff planted for winter, and your fall and winter crops, right? So it does mess it up because now you're behind even further. And then by the time you plant this stuff, that's behind. And then it is not established by the time, you know, the frost comes, because there's a lot of stuff that will make it through frost, but it has to be established. And then obviously you have to have a plan to cover it. I planted so late and I covered stuff, but it didn't matter. The stuff was dead. The seeds were dead in the ground, right? So just some stuff to think about. Think about preservation. Think about the things you need to preserve, all the things for pickling recipes and canning recipes and fermenting recipes and all the things you want to do. Get your backups. Get your backups. I cannot stress that enough. Your vac sealing stuff, your canning backups, everything, okay? And get ready for this season. I'm super excited. My goal that I push to everybody is, what did you do last year, and how can you make it more this year? How can you push those gains up? How can you make sure that you are growing more food every single year? That should be your goal, is I'm making more food, okay? And maybe that's you concentrate on certain crops and you're not doing everything across the board. You're not doing the whole gambit, but you get to a point where you're like, okay, these 5 crops we eat the crap out of, and this year we're gonna concentrate on these crops, and we're just gonna see how much yield we can get from these 5 crops that we eat hands down almost every day, if not every other day, right? And so instead of doing those other onesie twosies, because those other onesie twosies that maybe you don't eat that much, but you wanted to get on your shelf, and you grew in one season and you got enough on your shelf, you know, you got 10 jars of something that you're not going to eat all the time, right? And you're done. So there's no point in just growing mounds and mounds of that. Utilize your space, always grow more, and grow what makes sense for you and your family. You know, they say, it's kind of corny, but they say, you know, only grow what you eat. And it's true, right? There's stuff I do not grow because we do not eat. Like, I'm not growing eggplant. We don't eat eggplant. Nobody in my family eats eggplant. I don't even know anybody in my extended family that eats eggplant. If they do, I don't know. I don't grow it. I've never, you know, I think it's beautiful. I'm like, this looks like it'd be beautiful to grow. And what? Just let it wither away and die? Because I'm not, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to waste preserving it and my preservation items on it, knowing that I'm never going to open that jar and eat that. Okay. You know, could I trade it later? Maybe, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. Therefore, we don't grow it, right? If we don't eat it, we're not growing it, right? So I hope you guys are well. I know this channel I only do once a week. I'm trying to, you know, build it up a little bit. I've been really concentrating on trying to find, you know, a house. We're trying to move again. I know it's crazy. It sounds crazy. It sounds really crazy right now too, but I'm a little crazy, so it's okay. I can shoulder that. I can shoulder being a little crazy and maybe doing unconventional things that don't maybe make sense right now, but it makes sense in our soul that it's what we need to do. So we're working on that. And of course, you know, I have Patreon. If you don't know, I still have the Mama Bear Prepping channel, but I have Patreon as well, and we go a little bit deeper over there in the topics and the things that we talk about. You know, the stuff that I would be censored and can't talk about over here, I talk about over there. So I hope you guys stay well, and I'll see you guys next week on the next video. Take care. Bye.